All right, good evening. My name is Kristen Caruso, and on behalf of the Noble Public Schools Foundation and the Noble Public Library, we would like to welcome everyone to our 2024 Republican Primary Election Forum for House District 20. Before we begin, I'm going to go over a couple of ground rules that will help us move quickly through the questions so we can get to as many constituent concerns as possible. All of tonight's questions were submitted by constituents of House District 20. We'll get to as many as we can, and because we do have so many questions, we are going to ask that you limit your response to 60 seconds. At the end of 60 seconds, a timer will sound. You'll be given an opportunity to finish up your thought. If you take a little bit longer than that, I will have to ask you to please stop, and we will move to the next candidate. We're here tonight to get to know you all, the candidates for House District 20. We want to know your thoughts and your opinions on the issues. To that end, we're going to respectfully ask that you refrain from addressing fellow candidates, that you refrain from negative speech or commenting on what you think someone else might say or might think. Your 60 seconds goes very quickly, so please use your time wisely to address your constituent concerns. This forum is being recorded and will be available within a couple days on our website. We are going to start with Mr. Burns. Please introduce yourself to the constituents of House District 20.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? There we go. My name is Lonnie Burns, and I live here in Noble, and I'm an ordained minister and a licensed counselor, and I have chose to serve, and my goal is to servant leadership. And I feel like as a former mayor and former member of the Planning Commission, and wherever I've served as pastor, I've also served in the community. And so that is my desire to reach our district. And because I feel like all our families want the same thing, and that's to have a safe home, safe environment, safe place to raise their children, and good jobs. And with District 20, it is growing. And I'm excited about it. Well, my name is Lonnie Burns, and that's all I've got.
Hi, my name is Mike Fullerton. I live over in Newcastle, have for the last 29 years. I have sat on their city council for the last 11 years. I have almost 40 years of civil engineering industry dealing with infrastructure in our state and our cities. I know that Newcastle has been growing very well. House District 20 will be growing very well too with the boom that's coming in. I want to be the guy that helps us with our infrastructure.
My name is Mike Whaley. I'm a native Oklahoman. I was born in Oklahoma City in 1956. I graduated from high school up in Cleveland, Oklahoma in 1974. I joined the Navy right after that, attended the United States Naval Academy through 76, and then graduated with a bachelor's degree in math education from Southwestern in 1978. I stayed on at Southwestern to get my master's the following year, and also picked up another degree we call marriage, and married another Southwestern grad, Peggy Akers from Union City. I'm a teacher and a coach originally. After stops in Sand Springs, Mangum, and back to Southwestern, we have resided in the Blanchard area since 1986. We came to Blanchard in 86 as I was the football coach and a math teacher and a driver's ed teacher at that time. Peg and I have been active members of our First Baptist Church in Blanchard. Together we lead a Married Adults Connect group Bible study. I also serve on the deacon leadership team, and she plays in the praise and worship band. I've been interested in state government since I was a freshman in high school when I served as a Senate page for Senator John Dahl. My interest peaked in the last year last year of my employment as I worked with the legislative process.
My name's Jonathan Wilk. I'm born and raised over at Washington, Goldsby area. Spent 23 years in public safety service, both as fire and police. Worked in agriculture, worked in oil and gas business. My wife's currently a school teacher at Washington. She'll be finishing up her master's degree at the end of the year. Raised 3 boys. My oldest one is lineman at OEC. My middle son just graduated, and hopefully my youngest son will graduate next year. One of the things I think is more important than you guys listening to us speak is afterwards the communication we get from you all, like we've gotten through phone calls, through emails at the doorstep, because at the end of the day, one of us or a couple others, I guess, will be representing you. And so you need to build that relationship, and you need to state your thoughts, your ideas, and your principles, and give us that feedback to give us a baseline to grow with you as constituents in this district. One of the things I want you guys to know is I'm always going to be honest with you, and I expect you guys to be honest with me, and then we can foster a good relationship moving forward and good partnership for everybody. My biggest thing in... Okay.
Hi, my name is Aisha Prather. I'm a constituent. You are running for the State House of Representatives. What do you understand to be the responsibilities of this position? Have you visited the incumbent at the Capitol? And have you ever watched the proceedings of the chamber from the gallery?
Okay, yeah, can you,
Again?
yes.
Okay. So you're running for the State House of Representatives.
Close.
Not close. Okay, that's better. What do you understand to be the responsibilities of this position? Have you visited the incumbent at the Capitol? And have you watched the proceedings of the House from the gallery?
Okay, we'll go in, whoever was the first person to speak, will then start with the next person. So Mr. Fullerton, we'll start with you.
Okay, all right. Yes, the responsibilities of a House rep is to listen to its constituents first and foremost, to listen to what's going on in the community, to be part of that community, no matter if it's in their hometown or not, to be present and be seen and to listen to people. Baden-Powell once said, you learn more by listening and observation than by speaking. Yes, I have been at the Capitol. I've been at the Capitol several times. Over the last 4 years, I worked with House Representative Brad Bowles at the time to get a bill passed, which was House Bill 3037, which allowed small communities like Newcastle and Cole and Goldsby to be able to take a piece of the GPT tax and rebuild roads that had been beat up by the 80,000-pound tanker trucks at the oil field. I worked for that. We finally got it passed last year. And prior to that, I have been at the Capitol. And yes, I do know Ms. Conley very well. She lives in my hometown. And we don't always agree upon everything, but we also respect each other. Well,
Okay. Mr. Whaley?
Sure. I think the responsibility of a representative is twofold. First, to represent the constituents of the district of which they represent. That's the key word, represent. To do that, you've got to have an open line of communication and understand what their concerns are and what they're about. The second part of a representative's job is to work in the checks and balances part of passing laws and being about laws that are coming into to be passed or not passed. And so a representative has a key role in that also. I have visited with Representative Conley. We ate breakfast together when I learned that she was not going to run for re-election again. I visited with her a couple of times while she was at the Capitol in my previous job. I have been to the Capitol on many occasions to observe from the gallery and also to sit in on committee meetings, and in particular where legislation that affected my previous job was part of the agenda.
In my perspective, the responsibility of the House of Representatives is more so in line with the budget and representing the people in that decision-making process of the budget. And that's how we limit government's role in our lives. That's how we limit government's role in our businesses, in our schools, is through the budget. I mean, that's the biggest issue facing us right now is government overreach. So to do that, we have to control the money through the budget process. In terms of discussing with the incumbent, I did meet with her when I was told she wasn't going to rerun. We had a conversation, lasted about an hour, and outside of that, no, I have not. In terms of proceedings from the gallery, no, I have not attended the state capitol. I haven't participated in that capacity. I have been very involved and engaged in state and national politics in terms of keeping up with it and watching trends and trying to understand what's going on in our state.
All right, thank you. Our next question.
Yes, no, I have a.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
That's
Mr.
okay,
Burns.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Yes, I've been up to the Capitol several times with the Oklahoma Faith Initiative. There's a faith group that goes up to the Capitol, and I have been going up for a number of months to be a part of that, to pray for when the session's open. And I have met with Ms. Connolly and several times and been in meetings with her. And yes, I feel like as a representative of District 20, we have to listen to you. And that's the key to anything we do, is to listen to the voters and be an advocate for them, not to just go up there and forget about the district, but to cultivate back into your lives. And so, yes, that is my desire. That is my desire as a representative, to be a servant to you, to bring to the House a set of values and that I would hopefully bring from you when you visit with me, because what you say and what you do is very important to me. And I know that with visiting with Ms. Connolly and visiting with other senators up there and other and even had an opportunity to meet the governor, it's opportunity to learn and to build the relationships, not only with them but with you. And that's what.
All right, now our next question.
Senate District 15, by the way, Frank Solomon, Superintendent, Noble Schools. I've met with each of you at least once, so I had to modify my question just a little bit. Our school communities, Moore, Norman, Noble, Little Axe, I'm sorry, what? House District 20. Already did Senate District 15, didn't I? My bad. All deserve the same level of representation from your office if elected. Have you reached out to all or some of the superintendents? And if not, why not? And if you did, have you learned anything?
I understood you, Mr. Solomon.
Okay.
When I decided to investigate running for House District 20, the first group of people that I contacted within District 20 were the superintendents of schools. And my school background, so I wanted to open that door of communication as soon as I could. The idea that I could put those people on speed dial, that they would be able to, I could reach them at any time about any issue in education. I think that one of the things that's extremely obvious to anybody that looks at District 20 is the schools that you mentioned are very diverse, very different types of schools. And so what's affecting Dr. Miglerino in Norman and what's affecting Brady Barnes at Blanchard, while the law may be the same, it's going to have a different impact. So I tried to get a feeling for what they were concerned about. I think the number one thing that I came away with is that each one of them has a unique problem that is unique to them. But some of them had to do with the growth in the district and how were they going to prepare for the growth in the district.
Okay. Yes, I did reach out to our local superintendent at Washington, and subsequently we reached out through the Mid-America VOTEC down in Wayne and met with several superintendents from the district that attended that meeting. It was a great meeting. It's very productive. Met with superintendents, not just within House District 20, but within several school districts, even south. one of the things I discovered during that meeting was that the teachers and the schools and the faculty, they're not asking for anything extra. They're just asking to be treated normal. They're not asking for anything special. They're not asking for preferential treatment from the state. They just want to be treated like everybody else and not a third-rate citizen. They just want to have a seat at the table. They're not trying to cause controversy. They're not trying to cause trouble. They want to educate, and they want to fulfill their responsibilities as an educator. So those are some of the things that I was able to gain from visiting with those folks.
Yes, my question to your question is yes. I have met a lot of superintendents along the way. I enjoyed the meeting we were in the first of the year, and that was very informative to me. I actually learned from you guys and the getting to see the campus and getting to see our student body of each of our schools and our VOTEC centers. I call it still VOTEC, old school, I guess, but I enjoy education and doing what we need to help our children and help our young adults find their way, whether it be through I call it the VOTEC services or the high school or college, but I'm all for education because I have benefited from it greatly. There's been times in my life that I've had to reinvent myself. And so to reinvent myself, I would go back to school. I would learn new trade. I would learn new skills. And where else can I learn but through the education system that is there for us? And I very much want to be a part of each of our school districts in District 20 and be a representative and a voice, because without education, we stall out.
Okay, I'm sorry, we're going to have to
That's fine.
move on.
Yes, I have met with each of the superintendents of each school in the district. I've sat down with them and spoke, as well as Mid-America VOTEC. I actually took a leadership class from Mid-America, visited this great campus as well, as part of our trail through actually House District 20. I also have sat on steering committee for the Newcastle Public Schools for when our city has been growing so rapidly at 8 to 10%. And I sat down with our superintendent then at that time and spoke with her. I keep 3 of the school board members on my speed dial, literally. When something comes up and something's growing, I'll let them know this is coming your way. And that's part of my job sitting on city council, is to keep informed to our schools. And as a House representative, I wanted the feedback exactly back from y'all. I need to know what's going on, because you can't fix something if you don't know it's broken. And being a product of public ed, from high school to VOTEC to even I graduated from UCO with a degree in industrial technology.
All right, our next question.
Mindy Schmier, a lifelong Noble resident. The only source of funding for city services is sales tax. Some cities have a very small retail sector, therefore revenue is very limited. This is a very real issue for the communities of Noble, Little Axe, Lexington, and even Norman. What solutions can you offer as a legislator to this problem?
Yeah, so one of the biggest hurdles that they face is that the communities grow faster than the infrastructure. And from a state level, there's things that we can do in terms of grant funding and opportunities, especially right now with the surplus budget we're sitting on at the state, to try to divert some of those monies to these smaller municipalities, especially in the sprawling metropolitan area where they need that infrastructure to support that growth. Another avenue would be to facilitate some tax diversion strategies from businesses within your own community to where you, rather than paying your tax burden at the end of the year, you can divert it into funded projects that are obviously pre-approved through public funds to facilitate that growth, to help you in your own community, to where you're not sending it up there to get a 10 cents back on the dollar in terms of grant funding. In terms of the switching to an ad valorem type tax, I'll just tell you I'm against that because it really cripples farmers and ranchers. And with a farm and ranch background, you will put them out of business if they're not already. So I don't support anything additional to an ad valorem tax or property tax. And the other issue with that is it makes it really difficult for schools to pass a bond issue for growth.
In the area of taxes, I do not see or do not desire to have our taxes increased. But I would like us to see them under better control of how we manage them and how we distribute and how we manage to take care of our communities. I feel like also if we will explore what taxes are in line, that we need to address how these affect each and every one of our lives, and learn to give back into our communities. It's important that we give back into our communities and help them to thrive, because as we discussed so far, the infrastructure needs of our community are many, because each one of our communities in our district are growing. In fact, if you go into every one of District 20's communities, they're growing by leaps and bounds. And so this is a concern that we all need to be up on and be prepared for change. And that's what I am.
Sitting on city council, sales tax is, we always hear that, I get complaints back from residents that y'all get the property tax. No, cities do not get the property tax. They get the sales tax and the fees that come along with that. Sitting on council, we've had to actually increase some of our fees to cover some of our infrastructure that we're growing. Water lines, extending water lines, replacing ones that were 4-inch, that was, if you imagine, needed to be a 12-inch line, but what's in place right now is a 4-inch line. It doesn't feed very well. So we've increased those and we've been building on that. We actually hired a personnel to write grants. That was one of our first things we did on council, was to get a person to write grants. Within the first year of her service, we probably had $4 to $6 million in grant money that we matched these funds with. There may have been 50-50, there might have been 25-75, but that was the first move we made. We started projecting and getting how and where we needed to grow and what areas needed to grow, a plan to say. We had a plan, but it was old, it was out of date, and it didn't stick with our city. One of the first things this last couple of years, we did studies for our water, studies for our sewer, studies for even our drainage.
All right, that's time.
Okay. I could go a long time on that, I'm sorry.
All right, question 4.
You want me to answer that one?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Whaley. I apologize.
No, that's fine. That's good. My number one concern when you start changing tax structure is where is that money? Who's going to get to pay that tax? Because it's going to get paid. That money that you were talking about is going to come from someplace. So if we want to take away the sales tax, or we want to add to the ad valorem, then somebody else is going to pick up that cost. I'm very concerned that there's a ripple effect to that, where unintended consequences down the line to other folks that weren't even a part of the original thought process would be impacted. So I think when you start talking about changing tax structure, that's the first thing that you've got to make sure that you have accounted for every possible outcome so that if you're not just shifting tax burden to somebody else.
All right, now our next question.
Matt Whitehead. What do you think the role of the modern public library is? And are they fulfilling that role to your satisfaction? If not, what would you change?
Well, I certainly like the libraries as they are now. I remember back when I was young with the way we access books, and I like the fact that we have the internet connections in the library. I see nothing but improvement in usage for our libraries, and I'm very much for them. In fact, I feel like they are a very key part for our communities to take advantage of. And I feel like without them, we wouldn't have near the access. And so I'm thankful for the access, for the internet there, for all the services that the library serves, the rooms they have available for other meetings. So I feel like each community that has a library or multiple libraries, like in the bigger cities, I feel like they're assets to the community. And I would not change a thing about that. I would want to continue to support them, because I remember as a child looking forward to go to the library.
That's time. I told you 60 seconds is going to go fast.
Hey, it is.
Yeah,
All right.
Sitting on City Council, the Pioneer Library is located in one of our buildings. I support the library as one of my sons is an Eagle Scout. We did planter boxes for the library so that they could have outdoor facilities for kids to learn how to grow plants. It was a very big thing. I would love to see it come back. Since we've been remodeling some of our stuff, I would love to see it come back. I grew up in a public library. I went to college while being in a public library because that was the quietest place I could find to study. But again, our libraries are very important, not only for our children to start learning to read young at age and to continue growth in that, but also the internet that allows them kids to learn to search and find information they need. I feel like I'm over time. I'm sorry.
You did good. Right at it.
So a public library's access for knowledge for children and for adults, especially in this day and age that we live in when technology is changing the amount of information that's available to us all, I think a public library is that door, and that's that access. Are there concerns about how much access? Well, I'm sure just like with any other internet situation, there always will be about that. Having the public libraries that I'm familiar with in the community that I live do an excellent job providing opportunities for children and young adults and older adults to have access to not only books, but the internet. I think we're seeing in our state right now with the state broadband push that we're getting more and more accessibility to internet at almost every community. And that needs to be a number one priority.
So the modern library, it's not just for kids, right? It's for older people. When I was at the fire department, we would often go to the library to do our research as well. And they would have different groups in there working with the elderly, the senior citizens, trying to help them navigate the internet, navigate computers in general. So there's a lot of multiple roles in the modern library besides just going in and sitting down and reading a book. And it's for more than just kids. Now, I don't necessarily believe that it's for a homeless shelter, which in some municipalities that's what it's being used for, but most of them in House District 20, I think, are pretty solid. I just recently went in the one at Blanchard. It's a very nice library. So in some instances, I think it is fulfilling that role. And in some instances, outside House District 20, I don't know that it is. But in our district, I do think it is.
My name is Cindy Simpson, My question has two parts. How do you plan on communicating with your constituents and assessing their needs and desires on issues and legislation? And which constituents will have a say in your votes on bills?
As a city council member, I am actually one of the easiest council members I feel like to get a hold of. They know if they call the city, they'll give them my number, my cell phone. And I don't have a problem with that. You have, like I said earlier, if you don't know what the problem is, you can't fix it. You have to have communication with your constituents. If you don't, then you're running blind at the Capitol, and you need information from your constituents. I may know transportation very well, but education is not one. So I would have to listen to the superintendents and the principals and the teachers, and as well as the parents. So, meaning with that, I will always return emails. I will always return phone calls, and I will always listen to everybody.
Probably the easiest way to not communicate is to acknowledge the fact that your communication is all centered in one particular aspect. I know that in the date and time that we live in now, there are so many different ways to communicate. I think it would be important for each of us in the position to determine all the different ways people in this district like to communicate and share information. Because just because I prefer one method doesn't mean that everybody in the district prefers that. So you have to have multiple ways to communicate, and you have to have enough trust built up that when folks communicate to you, you at least acknowledge you've received the communication. I think a lot of times in my previous job, there was a lot, you didn't respond to us. You never said anything back. We didn't know if you got our message or not. Well, I may not have the right answer for you, but I'm always going to tell you, I got it. I understand. Let me work on that. I'll get back to you. Anybody who has anything to say about anything in District 20 is somebody I'm listening to.
Yeah, so in terms of personal communications, when I was at the fire marshal's office, we had a requirement. You had to respond to people within 48 hours. At least make a contact and let them know you got it and that you plan on responding if you're not going to respond at that moment. And I think it was a good practice. It worked out well for us there. And I've tried to continue that practice today. I've recently received more than one communication about the campaign, and we've done our due diligence to answer those comments, questions, and concerns. Now, if somebody's going to send us some sort of spam junk message, obviously I'm not going to respond to that. I'll just tell you. But, if we've got some legitimate messaging and legitimate concerns or phone calls need to happen, I wholeheartedly support maintaining that 48-hour turnaround if it's allowed. And then in terms of who I'll communicate with, I can communicate with anybody. In my previous job as a law enforcement officer, you couldn't be selective about who you were communicating with. It didn't matter whether they were a Democrat, an independent, a libertarian, a Republican. It didn't matter. So it was very important then, and it's very important now that we maintain that communication and who we're going to listen to.
All right, our next question. Oh, I'm so sorry. Mr. Burns, I apologize.
Yes, I'm about relationship building, and that's what it's all about. And I feel like is building that relationship with our constituents and with our fellow congressmen, and building that relationship to be able to clearly communicate and clearly be available to all that want access and need to talk to someone. As I was mayor, when I was mayor of Blanchard, and also as a counselor, I'm available to multitudes, and also as a pastor. So I've always been available in building relationships and not being afraid to confront issues that people bring to me and to help rectify and bring solutions. And so that's what I am, is solution-based and relationship building. And that's who I am.
Hi, my name is Sarah Sewell. This next question has two parts. Are you willing to work with other state elected officials, not just on the Republican side of the aisle, and see issues from their perspective? There are independents and Democrats in your district. How can they know that if you are elected, you are representing them as well?
So where did we finish it?
Yeah.
Mr. Whaley?
So I think one of the challenges for any elected official is his or her ability to work with those other elected officials. And I just say that and in that context only. Whether that's other elected official as a Democrat, an independent, it doesn't really make any difference at that point. They're representing someone. We're all trying to advance the ball down the field in some way, shape, or form. I do think that as a representative of District 20, though, my responsibility is to represent all of those folks in District 20, regardless of their party affiliation and regardless of whether I agree with them about all thoughts. I think the most important thing that you can value for any other human being is to listen to them and to hear what they're saying. And so I think that's very important. The identification by party is not the determining factor. The identification by representing those in House District 20 is the determining factor.
Yeah, so good policy is good policy. I don't care where it comes from. I'm not going to compromise my principles and waver from those just to get along. I can disagree with a Republican the same as I can disagree with a Democrat. As a fireman and a police officer, I've worked alongside both. We've been on the same team. We've been on opposite teams at times. But at the end of the day, we go sleep in the same house. I'm a guy that I'm going to treat each situation based on my principles, and that's what's going to guide my policy. So as long as we can agree on the principles, and I'm not going to be disrespectful to somebody, and I'll show them the respect they earn by their elected officials or their elected constituents, but I may not always agree with them, but I'll always listen to them.
Well, the way I see it, we're all Americans first, right? And as Americans, we need to have communication, no matter what label we put ourselves under. It's so important that we learn to communicate and share our visions and share and not criticize or be critical just because they are labeled differently than we are. And that's with any party or any nationality or any orientation. We need to be right there, able to listen and share and not judge one another. Because the heart of America is we're Americans first, and we need to listen to one another. That's what causes so much divide, is when we choose not to listen. And so as a representative, I would want to listen and I would want to share, whether they're Republican, Democrat, or conservative. But most of all, if they're Americans first.
Sitting on city council, I do not know all of my other members of party affiliations. So sitting in the Capitol, you may know those parties' affiliations, but you still have to listen and you still have to talk to them. They may bring something to, just like on city council, each person brings something separate to the table that's different from yours. The goal is to listen mostly. Well, I will not, back off from my conservative values, but I will listen and I will respect your opinion, but I will not back off from my conservative values. Most folks that I talk to, I don't know their party affiliation when I'm out there at their house talking to them about a problem that they're having with the city or a drainage issue of something of that nature. But I listen, and I guess I have my 60 seconds.
My name is Megan Holman. I'm a graduate of Noble and been here my whole life. Kids here, so these questions are all super important to all of us. But this one is an easy answer. This question requires a simple yes or no. If you win the primary election, will you commit now to attending our general election forum this fall?
Yes.
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 All right, this will be our final question. This is a party primary. And what that means is that you share a lot of very similar values with your voters and with your fellow candidates that are sitting on the stage. So why should voters choose you? So I'll give you just a minute to think about that, and I'll give you the question again. Since this is a party primary, you share a lot of very similar views with your voters and with one another. So why should voters choose you? Mr. Burns, we'll start with you.
Yes, as a conservative Republican candidate, I have enjoyed meeting these gentlemen, and I feel like we all have a lot in common with different career paths and different ideas and different focuses. My desire is to serve and to bring my values and my desire to serve and be a servant leadership in that role as your representative. And because I have served in many ways in many areas of my life. And I feel like it has brought me to this point to say that I would appreciate your vote.
Yeah, I'll agree that 95% of us all agree upon the same deal. I believe my experience sitting on city council, working in the community, with other things, with different groups, youth groups. I worked as a Cub Scout master. I worked as an assistant scout master. I'm currently a venture scout master, or a venture scout, assistant venture scout. Being an Eagle Scout myself, service is part of my DNA. I think my experience I bring to this campaign is the 11 years I have sitting on city council, dealing with the growth that we're experiencing and knowing the growth that's fixing to hit this whole district, as well as your own community, Noble here. I feel like I can help with that. I believe I can connect you with the people that you need to be connected with.
It's been very encouraging to me to meet these gentlemen that are on the platform tonight, because I think that we've got some folks in our district that have stepped up. I think what separates me from the rest is that I have a great deal of experience working with people who all have an agenda, and that agenda usually conflicts with one another. And I have done a lot of conflict resolution in my life. First as a school teacher, then as a building administrator, then as 33 years of basketball officiating is nothing but conflict resolution. And then the last 14 years I spent at the Oklahoma Secondary Schools Activities Association, where every phone call came with an agenda and a passionate plea from a parent or a grandparent. I get that as a parent and a grandparent, We're dealing with the most important thing that they have, their child. We're dealing with the most important thing we have in this district, our future.
So the biggest thing I think that separates me from potentially other candidates is my network of partnerships I've developed over the years through my time in public safety as a fireman, as a police officer, working through agriculture, working in oil and gas industry, and working in our local governments. I think I've gained a lot of partnerships, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience in a short amount of time. Some of the things that has always stuck with me throughout those various careers is little quips we learn along the way in life. And two of them that really stick with me is poor people have poor ways. That was kind of always one we used in oil and gas business. And then another one we always used was where there's a will, there's a way. The impossible just takes a little bit longer. And so I want to circle back around and say, sun up to sundown, nobody's going to work harder for you guys than me, because I've done it my whole life. Thank you.
All right, we would like to thank you all for attending our forum. Thank you to our candidates for taking your time to be here and to engage with your voters and to engage with our noble community. Again, the forum has been recorded. The video will be available via our website within a few days. We'll make sure that we get that out to you. If you have additional questions for the candidates, if there's something that didn't get covered, please stay, take a few minutes, and take some time to meet with them. Thank you all very much.